Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video for Riftbound. Today I have a very special guest on. We have Sold Out, who is the
Hello,
grandfather, hey, the grandfather of Annie Aggro, and is probably, no, in
dude.
fact,
Grandfather, you make me sound old.
well, let's be honest, you are the longest running Annie player as far as I'm aware in the
Can I
community.
just be the regular father?
You could just be regular Annie dad, that also works.
Okay, that works for me.
But I think I'm not going too far out there by saying you are probably the number one ranked Annie, at least in the online community. Real events are coming up
Uh,
soon.
yeah. Even in China, no one is using this deck to perform. Uh, so yeah, I'm the only person in the world that has like tournament wins with Annie, even if they are just like unofficial events. Just this weekend I won like $120 playing Annie. Um,
Yeah, that was
you know,
mad because you've been
so
on the same list quite consistently for, as far as I know, from all of the tournaments you've been, because there's multiple top cuts. You had Rift Labs not too
yeah,
long ago. You just had Fight Night. You also had Rift Maxing. So yeah, $120 this weekend alone, and your list hasn't changed that much, which is
and no, it's
crazy.
the same list. I'm kind of at the point with Annie where sometimes I just like to mix it up, and so I'll just like not including the 48 cards on Piltover. There's like um a handful of cards that I kind of just like move in and out, just to like mix things up a little bit. That's kind of like where I am with Annie is like anytime I go into a tournament, I'll just be like, what do I feel like doing today? And I'll be like, all right, you know what? We haven't played this card in a while or that card in a while. So I'll just toss it in. Um, just because, I like to like keep things, mix things up, keep it fresh. And then a lot of times when the meta shifts, if you're like constantly playing this only the same list, you kind of get stagnated.
Yeah.
And so you kind of want to be like moving, like even if you're just moving cards around for the sake of it, even if you don't think those cards are like particularly strong. And that's kind of what I did with this weekend is I put Noxus Hopeful in the deck, a card that I don't think is particularly good in Annie. I think there's reasons to play it, and so I did, but like it's not a card I would bring to like a really, really big tournament, at least not at the moment. But I just put it in because I was like, why not?
I
Let's just
love that.
play it. Maybe
How
it'll be good.
how crazy confident you have to be like, I'm just going to change cards to see if they work on these high level tournaments and still be finishing at those points. That
It's
is
like because every card
insane.
in the deck, like I've tested with my group, so like I know every card and like its implications. But like sometimes, I've been wrong about stuff. Sometimes I like to just throw it in and like just to confirm what I already know, or maybe realize, oh, maybe my understanding of this card wasn't actually as thorough as I thought. Um,
I think that's like an
yeah,
excellent way to approach deck building. It's like even challenging your own ego is like a huge part of it where you say, I think this card is bad, but I should probably try it once to see if
yeah.
if I'm right.
I am extraordinarily humble, so.
Well, that's fine. I will do all the glazing then. You don't have to worry about that because I am super impressed with. In fact, one of the guys in our group picked up your deck, and in the Bandle
Mhm.
Blitz and also Runes in Rift, they finished top four in both of those events playing this list that you had on Built Over Archive. So clearly it works. Um, so yeah, I guess I'll start at the very beginning then. Like, why Annie of all of the other legends that are out there, you decided to go with very much against the grain. Not a lot of people on this list, even after seeing your successes, people tend to not be aggressively learning the Annie deck. So what drew you to this?
That's a great question. There's a real answer and there's a funny answer. The real answer is just that I am a rogue player at heart. Like,
Mm.
I don't like playing the deck that everybody already knows is good. I like finding a deck that is maybe underrepresented and then kind of just seeing how well I can do with it. And Annie, I landed on. There's a lot of decks that fit that criteria, like Ari, Annie, Set is not a bad one, Teemo. Like all the decks like this are decks that are underrepresented, not particularly played. The reason I chose Annie is because the moment I like put the deck together for the first time, I like something in my brain just like cracked. Like I had like a brain blast, and I was like, this deck is broken. Like like the first time I put the deck together, the first very first iteration looks way different than this list, but from like the core was like there, and I was like, this deck does exactly what I want a Riftbound deck to do. Um, so yeah, it's just like everything about Annie just kind of like coalesces together that forms like this super consistent, aggressive um strategy that I just love. It's just so much fun.
Yeah, and the legend ability for the Dark Child is actually kind of nuts when you see how strong Targon's Peak is, and you just get this on a legend ability and you don't even need to conquer. It's just like it felt like this is going to be an insane tempo deck. And then,
Um, yeah, if you want like a really easy way to like evaluate how good a legend will be, and you can probably use this for like the set two legends, is and this isn't always true, but it's the case for like most of the current decks at least. You just want to see like how much value and specifically how early that value begins to accumulate
yeah.
that your legend gives you. Like the reason why Master Yi, Kaisa, Annie, I think I'd throw Ari in there too.
Mm.
The reason why all these decks are so strong is turn one, they're already accumulating value from their legend.
Yeah.
Like Master Yi and Ari are changing how your opponent has to play the game, right? Like now, starting turn one, they have to play around this -1 or this +2, and like that, like completely shifts someone's game plan going into a match. Kai'Sa is another great example of that. Like turn one, you are effectively ramping every single turn by just doing the thing that you were going to be doing anyway. And that's another thing is your legend, you really want it to boost the play patterns that you were going to do regardless. Master Yi is a great example. It's like his condition of like being on a battlefield defending, like that's not a like condition really. Like cuz like you're going to be doing that
Yeah.
no matter what. So like the like that sort of condition is so easy to meet that you don't have to like finagle a situation in order to get value out of that. Something like Leona is a great example of a legend. Like the reason Leona is bad at the end of the day is that her legend doesn't give you very much value. Like
Mm.
stunning a unit, getting a buff, that's not enough value. And then on top of that, stunning units isn't something that you were going to be doing already. Like you kind of have to put cards in your deck to enable that, and those cards aren't good enough by themselves. Like so if you look at like the other green or the other yellow decks, you'll
Yeah.
see that like none those decks aren't playing the stun cards because the stun cards aren't particularly good. And so like if you are forced to put these suboptimal cards into your deck to enable a legend ability that doesn't actually give you very much value for doing so, like that is always going to be inherently worse than just playing a legend like Kaisa or Yi that just give you insane value for doing the thing you were already going to do. And that's part of the reason why Annie is so good is like all of these cards that I'm playing in the deck are cards that you would play if even if you didn't have this ability, right? Like
Yeah.
and the cards that you like, Flash is a good example of a card that maybe you wouldn't play without this ability, but the fact that you get to play Flash is like insane. Like Flash is super. I cannot overstate how powerful Flash is, and Annie gets to abuse this card so much. Um, so there's a lot of things that go into it, but like at the end of the day, like your legend ability needs to accumulate value, as much value as early as possible. And Annie's a great example of a legend that makes all the cards that you are going to play even better.
Mm.
and enables you to play specific cards that other decks don't get access to. And like all of that like together forms this like super cohesive shell that is like really, really difficult for other decks in the format to deal with.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good breakdown. I mean, my next question on my list was why Annie works specifically, considering that it obviously fits the criteria of what a successful legend is, and it seems like the least amount of work that you have to do in order to get value from your legend certainly seems
Yeah.
to be the way to go because the game feels very fast, at least through set one from my experience.
No, it is. It is quite fast.
It's moving quickly, and this deck is probably the fastest in the format. I'm struggling to think of a deck that's faster
Without
than
a
this that's
doubt.
good. So that's basically how you're doing it. You're getting under people with your cards, and then also you've got the ability to deploy and develop whilst also holding up responses
Yeah.
and plays, which is obviously when Kai'Sa
That's like
does
the
it.
number one thing with Annie is that it's the only deck in the game where you can spend all of your mana on your turn to develop your units or like play your stack decks or like do whatever you want on your turn. And then when you pass, still have mana open to interact with your opponent. It's the only deck in the game that can do that. Like you have other decks like the green decks and Kaisa that like purposely leave some mana open so that way they can cast things on the opponent's turn.
Yeah,
But they are lowering the ceiling of their own turn by doing so because they're not spending this mana. And that really matters because like the way that you play around when Kaisa leaves 3 mana open is you just don't walk into Void. If you just don't walk into the Void Seeker, then they pretty much just wasted half of their turn
yeah.
to accomplish nothing. And that's part of the reason why Annie is so broken is that I can always have these interactive cards available without having to telegraph anything to my opponent or lower the ceiling of my own turn. So those kind of things, those couple things kind of like coalesce together that make it really difficult to deal with Annie.
Yeah, and it certainly seems like in a lot of the games, the player that spends the most runes generally wins. And if you make your opponent essentially take a massive opportunity cost by leaving 3 runes up so they can go for a Void Seeker play and then you don't walk into it, that's just them straight up losing 3 energies worth of value, whereas you developed
Exactly.
and you still had the potential to respond if they try anything crazy, which is absolutely nuts. And I have loved watching. I've had the pleasure of casting some of your matches from some of the tournaments, and it's always a
Mhm.
pleasure to watch this. Like going through your deck list, let's go through some of the things. For example, the choice of battlefields. Like, are you locked on these, or are there some that you'd consider potentially different options for? Like, or are these like the best battlefields you think you can get
I
for Annie?
if there's one thing I am 100% certain about in this for at least all of Origins, I do not think these battlefields will change.
Mhm.
I don't think there's any world where any of these battlefields get swapped. Maybe Arena's greatest and gets changed out for something, but to be honest, I don't think that's the case. I think Arena's is too strong in too many matchups to consider dropping it. And then on top of that, there's just like not any good replacements.
Mm.
Like I have people telling me, "Oh, Sold, you should play Obelisk of Power. Sold, you should play Reaver's Row." And it's like Reaver's Row in theory is good, but the way you get a lot of your value in Annie is by walking over your opponent's units
Yeah.
and then protecting your own units with a card like Flash. So that way you kind of like do something that's a little unfair by
Mm.
being able to kill all of your opponent's units in combat and then being immune to combat is something a lot of decks can't deal with. And then for something like Targon's Peak, like you don't need Targon's Peak. A lot of the times, Targon's Peak helps your opponent more than it helps you
Yeah, for sure.
because like all of the cards in your deck, you have to build your deck around not having Targon's Peak. So like if I include cards that are only good when I get the 4 mana readied between Annie and Targon's, then like those cards are dead anytime I don't have access to Targon's. And you could do something with like the sideboard where like you side cards in for the Targon specifically, which I have tried, but the problem with that is one, there's not any good cards that
Mm.
get enabled by Targon's that you don't already get access to with just the Annie legend. but you don't want to give Targons to an opponent. I mean, like, you really don't want to give Targons to a green player, and
Yeah.
you really don't want to give Targons to the Kaisa. And like those are like the only matchups that like that really matter. So it's like a battlefield that just like is worse into the matchups that you could theoretically lose. And Arena's greatest is like really good into every single deck in the game. So there's like no reason not to play Arenas, and there's not like a convincing argument for any of those other battlefields.
Yeah, no, I completely respect that. Every time I see an Arena's Greatest get flipped up, I have a little minor heart attack if my deck isn't fast. I'm like, oh, okay, it's going to be one of these games. It just, the pressure
Yeah,
comes on
and Arenas is
immediately.
like super versatile because like there's a lot of matchups where you play it going first and just like it kind of exacerbates that like going first tempo.
Yeah,
And then there's a lot of matchups where you play it going second, like Aurora. A lot of times I'll play it going second into Hook, just because like you don't want to give arenas to an opponent if they are on a like really fast deck. Just like how the point math turn works out. Like if an opponent can put 2 units on the board turn one, if they have arenas going second, it's actually like more beneficial to them.
yeah,
So yeah, against like Hook and like Aurora, you don't need it turn one to going first because your going first win rate is already so high
yeah, of
that
course.
you play arenas when you go second, so it kind of like balances out that those two win rates a little bit, and I think it kind of increases your win rate overall by a decent margin.
Yeah, I completely
And
respect
then
that.
yeah, Zon and Tree are self-explanatory.
Yeah, Dreaming Tree, obviously, you've got a bunch of things like Cleave, Flash, Fight or Flight if we do target our own units with it. Ride the Wind, there's like a ton of triggers for Dreaming Tree. It's just kind of ridiculous. And then Zorn's just for the consistency and also setting up the ridiculous Vi plays a little bit later on.
Yeah, Zon is super. Zon is really consistent. I'm a big Zon enjoyer.
Yeah, I always have the trouble with Zon when I want to put it in my decks where I'm like, I don't want my opponent using this because it unbricks their hand, but I like the logic where it's like I'm so fast, if they're trying to unbrick their hand, I've already won, which this deck kind of looks like it already
Yes.
does. So they don't really get advantage for consistency if they're in a bad spot with it, which is why I usually avoid putting Zorns in a lot of my more mid-range decks when I'm playing something like Set. I'm always a little bit like, I don't really want them digging. Uh, but I do really like it here, especially with Vi. So to go through the deck, one of the noticeable things that was missing was Tech Ray. That's usually one that's super popular in Fury decks, especially when you have Annie's ability to ready two runes. What was the reason for excluding it from this lineup?
So there's a couple reasons we're not playing Hex. I don't think I have Hextech Array in like any versions of my decks. It's just a card like one. It's just half a Falling Star. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, it is half a Falling Star. So it's like, why would I play that when I could just play Falling Star? So if you're playing Hextech Array, it's because you're already playing Falling Star. And then one, if you're already playing Falling Star, you can't really afford the power cost on Hextech Ray. So
Mm.
it's like kind of in this position, like Kaisa gets to do it because it's Kaisa,
Yeah.
but in a deck like Annie, where you don't get to play these cards for free, you do have to consider the amount of power in your deck. And if we're under the assumption that we have to play Falling Star over Hextech Beam, then we can't really justify playing Hextech Beam at all because now we're adding, so many power costs to our deck that is, you can't do that, in Riftbound. Like your deck needs to have cards that don't have power attached to them.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest changes we saw from people's original deck list builds was people going from cramming as much power cards into their deck because they were just overstated or they were much better to now people being very mindful of when and where they're spending their power. Like the successful decks
Mm-hmm.
are more looking at like, okay, if I'm Ari, I'm not spending I don't really want to spend runes unless it's defying something or on time warp. And they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of moving towards that plan, whereas Kaisa just ignores the entire power cost element, which is why it's doing so well, because it just gets to play so many good cards that replace themselves on it. But I think
Yeah, Kaisa is a little bit ignorant in that sense,
yeah,
where they don't really have to think about their deck building at all because they can just play all of the cards that have the little power symbol on them.
yeah, it's just like, oh, it has a power
Um,
symbol and says draw card. I should probably be playing this.
Yeah, I mean, like with this build in particular, and I kind of do this with all of my modern Annie decks, is I just try and play as few cards that cost power as possible. And that's a good strategy with like any deck. Like you will get a lot further just by playing these like powerless cards than trying to like jam, one power cards into your deck every single turn or every single time you build a deck. I'm trying to think if there's any cards specifically I excluded because they cost power. Off the
Yeah,
top
I
of
can
my
think of
head.
Hedge Tech Ray. I see Rebuke is over in the side.
Yeah, you can't play Rebuke and Falling Star in the same list. Like if you're putting in Rebuke, it's because you're siding out Falling Star.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which turns out is like super okay because the decks Falling Star is bad against, Rebuke is really good against. So it ends up working out.
Oh, I like that. I also love sideboard text where you've literally just got this is just a straight up swap for this in this situation. It just makes the
Yeah.
sideboard plan so much easier because one of the problems that a lot of players have is okay, I've got the sideboard. I have no idea what's supposed to come out in the main from my side deck cards in any given matchup. Um,
Yeah, that's like the number one thing you need to be able to do is like know what you're siding in and out against any given matchup. Oh, I've thought of some cards that I am not playing due to power costs.
okay.
Number one would be MF, purple MF.
Oh, Bounty Hunter.
This
Yeah, that would be
card,
really good because it
yeah.
gives you sneaky deckhands effect on all of your units.
This card is good. This card is not bad, but the power cost means that it's just really hard to get value out of it early. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
Buccaneer. If this card didn't cost power, even if it was like a 4 mana 3 might, I would be playing it.
Yeah, this card should be not.
Because there's just a lot of situations where this effect is really strong.
I'm wondering if this is. I think Riot wants this to be much more playable, or at least they expect it to be, based on the fact that the prize card for the regionals was an alternate art version of this
I
card over
mean,
anything. Not Kai'Sa, it was this.
one of the Summoner Skirmish prize cards is the Tryndamere, so I don't think the prize cards have anything to do with playability.
Oh, just like they took the alternate art and went with Misfortune. I mean, they may have put the art request in before they had the card effects, to be fair. But like when I see something like that where I'm like, they must assume that people want to play Misfortune if they're committing this resource to it. But you could be right. It
I
could
mean,
just
and
be
I'll give you guys a little insider information. This card is actually really, really good, just not in 1v1s.
for multiplayer, yeah, where you've got triple battlefields. Oh, that's actually
Another
insane.
example of a card we're not playing due to a power cost is the Nocturne. Early, a lot of early Annie builds, people are like, bro, you gotta play Nocturne. He's just a free four. There's a lot of reasons why that's not true, but the number one reason is that he costs power, and it's like if you
Mm.
draw a Nocturne in your hand, you just have to play him to base, and that's like way worse than if we just like played a Noxus Hopeful.
Yeah, that's awful feeling when you draw this card because it's massively understated with the power
And
cost.
then this isn't like exactly related to the power cost discussion, but you also just have to play a lot of bad cards in your deck to enable Nocturne.
Yeah.
Um, like put all the vision guys in, and like those cards, like a good rule of thumb is that you don't want to be playing bad cards to enable something. Like if a combo is good, it should be good is if you're playing all of the cards that you would already be playing. If I found a card that got super enabled, if it got really, really good because I was playing Void Seeker,
Yeah.
then I'd be like, okay, well, we can justify playing this because I was already playing Void Seeker anyway. But so with something like Nocturne, where it's like, now I have to play Mystic Poro, now I have to play Candlelit, now
Yeah.
I have to, do all this extra steps for for one, a payoff that's not even that good, and then two, now I just have all these, worse cards in my deck.
And
It's just
extra
like
power costs, right? Which just then
exactly.
just takes away from the game plan. Like I would love Nocturne to be good. It's just not. I don't even think it's very good in Teemo, and Teemo has some pretty awesome triggers for it. It's just I don't think Nocturne is playable with a current card pool. I'm hoping that changes, but so let's talk about like what the ideal turn one is when you go into a game, for example, against Kai'Sa. What's like your say you're on the play and you're going first. Like, what's the ideal opening hand that you're kind of looking for going into that match?
So the number, like turn one, turn two, turn three, I'm always, it doesn't matter what the matchup is, I'm always looking for sneaky deckhand.
Yeah.
Going first, going second, I want sneaky deckhand in my hand. Like this is the best early game card in the deck. Like I cannot understate how strong sneaky deckhand is. Going first, you really want to find a 2-drop plus sneaky. If you're able to like develop both a 2-drop and a sneaky deckhand by turn 2, that is really, really difficult for an opponent to deal with. It doesn't matter what deck in the game it is. That's a very difficult board to beat. It looks a little innocuous. It's like, oh, it's just two my units. But like you have to keep in mind, at this point in the game, it's turn 2. I have 2 points already. My opponent has 0 points. My opponent maybe has 1 unit in their base, and they have 4 mana open, right? So like let's say I'm against Kaisa and they go Falling Star. Okay, I lose both of my guys, but now my Kaisa is down to 2 runes, right? They're not going to be able to develop in a meaningful way this turn. And on top of that, they're only going to be able to score 1 point, which means they're not going to hit that 2-point break point that's so important in Riftbound.
Yeah. And it's even worse for them
And
if you've got
then
the Pouty Poro, right? Where they've got the deflect cost
exactly,
as
yeah,
well.
if I have the Pouty Poro, then like now they're down an additional rune, and like now my Kaisa opponent is so far behind, I'm untapping with 6 runes. Yeah, like now I can do a Darius or accelerate a Kaisa or play a Vayne, right?
I love Vayne, by the way.
And then in any other situation where you have both battlefields, you have 2 points, you're threatening to go to 4, your opponent is forced to interact with your board or they risk losing the game on the spot. Like if you go 2-drop into sneaky and your opponent decides, I'm not going to contest the battlefield this turn, they lose the game. You're up 4-0. That is an unlosable position for Annie, which means you force your opponent into what is very often a suboptimal push where they have to take their 2-drop and then push your sneaky or like push your other 2-drop. And then remember, it's turn 2, so they only have 4 runes up. If they go discipline on their guy to beat your 2-drop, that's half of their mana to out your board, right? And then if I go, okay, well, I'm just going to Void Seeker your guy, right? Because if I go 2-drop into Sneaky and I pass, I have 3 mana open, which threatens Void Seeker, threatens Flash, threatens Fight or Flight. Like, I can't, like, I truly cannot understate how powerful 2-drop into Sneaky is going first. Like, it is really, really, really hard to lose a game that you went 2-drop into sneaky because that is like true combo.
Yeah,
And then after that point in the game, like once you get 2-drop sneaky going first, like everything else, like it doesn't matter. Like your hand can be whatever the hell you want, and you win the game.
yeah,
And then going second, you really don't want to see 2-drops. Like merchant is whatever, but really you want to be seeing sneaky deckhand. So you can go turn 1 sneaky, like going second, turn 1 sneaky deckhand, insanely powerful.
mm.
Very, very difficult to deal with. Another reason Annie is so good is she has cards, specifically Kaisa Survivor, that get better when you go second. There's not a lot of cards like this in Riftbound. This is a concept that I hope the devs explore further because right now in Riftbound, the win rate is skewed towards the person that won the die roll by a margin that is considerable. And there needs to be more cards that get better when you go second. Kaisa Survivor is a great example of a card like that. Turn 2, you can accelerate this Kaisa to a battlefield, which means that against most decks, you just get to walk over whatever 2-drop they played. And then on top of that, it just draws you cards. So it's like an accelerated 4-might that draws you cards, contests their 2-drop. Like this card is, I cannot understate how good Kaisa is.
Yeah, it's an
Like,
absolute insane card for sure.
and then on top of that, then you get against like if I was playing the Kaisa deck proper and I did that play, it's actually not a very good play because now I'm tapped out. My opponent can just walk over it or do whatever they want. But in Annie, I get to untap two, hold up flash, and then when I flash this Kaisa, now I get to move it in again next turn and draw another card. So it's just like all of these like tiny like small synergies just kind of compound together because it's like I'm accelerating my guy, killing your guy, drawing a card, flashing my guy, protecting it,
Then redrawing, yeah.
moving it in, drawing another card. It's like this sort of like tempo pattern that you get with Annie is really, really hard for decks currently to deal with.
Yeah, it's crazy when you see it going off. And like I love things like being able to flash away from Dreaming Tree, draw the card as well. Like some silly stuff there. Zone Warrens, you're like, yeah, that's great. I can move with a merchant, discard, draw,
I'll give you a
discard.
secret.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't playing Cleave or Ride or Fight or Flight, and the only card in my deck that triggered Dreaming Tree was Flash, I'd probably still be playing Dreaming Tree. Because
Wow.
drawing a card off of Flash is like bonkers. It's so, so crazy.
Yeah, whenever I've seen you do it on stream, I'm always like, that is so disgusting. I love that.
Because the way I think about Flash most of the time is it is just Zanya's.
Yeah.
Like
I'm
it's
happy to
it's just
pay.
Zanya's.
Yeah, I'm happy to pay a power
And a
to
lot of
set
times
Zhonya's. That's like how good the effect is.
a lot of times, yeah, it's a Zanya's that doesn't cost power
Mm.
exactly. But a lot of times it's also two Zanyas. All right, if you have a unit on each of the battlefields, you can flash and save them both. Like, what's better than one Zanya's? Two Zanyas, you know?
Yeah, half the
So
cost for sure. uh,
it's
and it's a
no,
reaction as
it's
well, which is
yeah. No, this card, I mean, I'll be honest, Annie as a deck probably wouldn't exist if this card didn't exist. Like this card is I cannot understate or I cannot overstate how important Flash is to the Annie game plan. At least Annie in its current form needs this card. This card is like maybe the best card in the deck. It's extremely extremely strong.
I'm so glad that you've got to share your thoughts on that because immediately when people have been looking at this and whether you talk about it in commentary, this is the card we highlight, Ride the Wind. We don't talk as much about Flash as it sounds like we should be based on the way you're describing it. Because obviously we see this
Um,
and Vi to
yeah,
just
Ride is good.
take the last two
Ride lets
points.
you do a lot of really unfair things, like Vi Ride to win the game. But a lot of time, often in Riftbound, winning the game isn't the problem. A lot of times it's getting to that sixth point,
Yeah.
like that, like you really need to be able to, like if your deck can't get to six, then whether or not you have the best, win combo doesn't matter because you never got to six.
Mm.
And Flash is the best card that lets you get to 6 points. Um,
Yeah. Just
yeah,
conserving
like
those
Ride
units.
obviously
Yeah.
super super strong, very very important to the deck, but I would argue that you could play Annie without Ride the Wind. I don't think I would play Annie without Flash, to be honest.
Wow, that is crazy and so illuminating to hear that. I'm gonna have to take another look at this Flash and see if I can fit it into any other decks, or if it is just kind of like Annie's secret tech card. I
Like
mean,
it's good in like Misfortune
yeah,
and like you can play it in Jinx.
Y-
But the problem with those decks is you're kind of limiting the ceiling of each, like it's kind of what we talked about
yeah,
earlier,
with the
where like
runes.
you're limiting the ceiling of your own turn by holding up this mana. The reason it's so incredibly broken in Annie is that she doesn't have to hold up that mana, right?
Yeah, you just get it for
And
free.
then Annie also doesn't, this is something people don't talk about enough. Annie doesn't telegraph to your opponent that she has anything,
Yeah,
right?
because you
Because
just
that
ready the
mana is
runes
going
for
to be
free.
there
Yeah,
always. Yeah. It's like if I play MF and I leave up two runes, it's like, okay, I'm telegraphing to my opponent that I have fight or flight or
Bullet
flash
time.
or ride the wind, right?
Yeah.
With Annie, I could have literally nothing, and you would have no idea.
You just have to play as if you
Um,
had something,
yeah,
just by
exactly.
virtue.
And it's like the cards in Annie are so strong that if you make the read, oh, he doesn't have anything, and then I do, like one ride the wind where my opponent wasn't playing around it can win you the game on the spot.
Oh yeah, because you just move to the other battlefield they're not occupying.
Yeah,
You
move
get the
to the
conquer.
battlefield, conquer. If that conquer breaks the point threshold, like if you ride the wind on your opponent's turn
Yeah.
to go from 5 to 6, the game's over. Like your opponent can just concede. I would even argue that if you're going from 3 to 4, like any point in the game in which you ride the wind to you know break one of the point breakpoints, it is like an insane swing in tempo. Like very, very, very important.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's Ride the Wind is probably one of the strongest chaos spells for
It is
that
very good.
ability. So I guess I'd ask, like, in terms of like your matchups, which ones would you say are the easier matchups for any versus which ones are the more difficult ones when you're on tournament play?
So all of the like meta decks, if you like divide all of the decks in the game into like a tier list, you have like your S tier, your A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier.
Yeah.
Any Most meta decks are like this. Anything that's like below B tier or below, you kind of don't even consider because like you're just gonna win.
Yeah.
Like your opponent flips over a Volibear, they flip over a Teemo, they flip over a Leona or a Jinx or any of these decks,
Yeah, you just
the
run them
game's
over.
over. Like
Yeah.
you've already lost simply because you brought this deck to the table. When we're talking about matchups, really what
Yeah.
we're talking about is like Kaisa,
Yep.
Yi, to a certain extent, like Hookadarius and Ari, and then like whatever Aurora variation you want to discuss, right?
Yeah, of course.
Against Ari and Hook and Aurora, your matchup is extremely favored. I played against a lot of Hook recently. It completely decimates that deck. The only thing you have to know about Hook is that you need a way to out Noxus Hopeful. If you don't have a way to out Noxus Hopeful, you will lose. But as long as you are hard mulliganing for your Vayne and your Void Seeker and your Cleave, that matchup becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
Ari is like Master Yi. So I personally think Ari is really well positioned right now. I think like the Time Warp Ari deck is quite good.
Yeah, I have it high on my list as well for the meta game right now.
I don't know if it will end up having any results, but personally, I'm a big fan of that deck. I think it's really fun. I think it's really cool. But that is a deck that is really bad into Annie
Hmm.
because her she just gets annihilated by Gust. Like at the end,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that deck
Gust's a good
just
card.
gets absolutely slaughtered by Gust. Master Yi is a little bit better into Gust because if you walk into him he gets to +2. Now you can't gust him, right?
Yeah, you gotta.
Ari is the opposite. She gives you -1, which means as long as you're winning that combat, they can't use a combat trick because if they do, you just chain gust and like the game is over. Like you will win games simply by going like Kaisa in, them playing like discipline and then you gusting in response.
Yeah.
Like if they don't have like a second combat trick or a defy for the gust, the game's over. Like you just got infinite amounts of tempo from that play.
Yeah, and you're already probably going up to points 3 or 4 that turn by the time that's coming up if you've gone sneaky and your 2 drop's been pushed in as well. So that seems, yeah, absolutely ridiculous when that goes off. And so which ones would you say is like the harder matchups then? Would that be Kaisa, I guess, because of all of the
Pretty
removal?
much the only matchup, yeah, like Kai'Sa is definitely the hardest matchup. Although recently, I don't know if Kai'Sa players are just getting worse or if I'm the greatest any player of all time.
I'll say you are.
Uh, but the last 5 Kaisa players I've played in tournament, I have completely demolished. The last 5 matches in tournament I've played against Kaisa, I've lost a single game. Um,
Wow. That is
So
really good considering how ridiculous the Kai'Sa deck is. It's
yeah,
consistent. It
people
goes off
like
every
to like
game.
really overstate how bad that matchup is. Like the reason the Kai'Sa matchup seems really bad is because it's the only matchup that you can theoretically lose. Like every other deck in the game is like pretty favored for Annie. I would say that like there are builds of Master Yi that are difficult to deal with, but like if my opponent is playing like Ramp Yi or Aurora Yi, I'm like super okay with that. Like that's super okay. But there
Yeah.
are builds of Master Yi that like are more difficult to deal with. But like generally speaking, like these like really like go big decks are very poorly positioned into Annie. It's the same reason why like Annie absolutely demolishes like all the Aurora variants is that those decks are just too slow. Like by the time you're at your 8 mana to like play your Dead Bloom, I have like 4 or 5 points. And then like Annie is more than capable of dealing with Dead Bloom predators and dealing with, the White Flame protectors and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and once if you get them to a point where you're on like 4 points before they play the Aurora, like they've got a chance of like their first hit off of it is just like a White Flame, and it does nothing in
Hmm.
base, and then you go to
Yeah,
6,
exactly.
and it's like, okay, I don't see how you're getting back from this. Um, yeah, I guess sort of coming more towards the end then, for in terms of skill expression, like for people who want to pick up Annie, what do you think would separate a good player from a great one? Like where's like the
Oh,
mindset for that? Where's the line?
so Annie has the most number of play lines of any deck in the game. Like at any point in a game, starting turn one, you have like an incredible amount of decisions you have to make. What do you pitch off of Merchant? What do you get off of your stack deck? Do you push? Do you hold? How much do I leave up? What am I threatening? These are all questions you have to ask at every stage of the game as Annie. And there's a lot of decks that pose similar questions, but there's no deck that has as many questions as often as Annie does
Mm.
that you need to be asking yourself. Annie's definitely, I mean, I'm a little biased,
Of
obviously,
course.
but
Who
I
wouldn't
would
be?
feel very comfortable saying like Annie is the hardest deck in the game. I mean, a great kind of example to this would be that like no one else in the world is performing with Annie. Like,
No one's even trying, to be fair. Like
yeah, and
this
that's don't even get me started. Like, I think Annie is criminally underrepresented,
I agree.
but part of the reason why she's underrepresented is because she's difficult to play. Like, people pick up the deck, they go, this deck isn't very good because they made like 17 misplays, and then they just go play like Master Yi or Kaisa because those decks are so much easier to get value out of. Um,
It's easier to see where you
and
lost the
that's
game in those decks for sure. Like you could
exactly, yeah,
lose with
yeah,
this
yeah.
so
Like
early in the game without realizing
so
because you
many
pitched the
like
wrong thing.
the number one thing that I do that people that play against me hate is like turn two, I'll just scoop. Like if I'm like because there's so many positions where you get into if you misplay early where you just lose the game. And like if you have enough experience playing, I mean, you can do this with pretty much any deck.
Yeah.
But Annie, especially, just because her early game is so important to kind of generate this point lead and this like tempo advantage, that if you get behind early, it's very difficult to get back ahead. Um, so
Yeah.
with Annie especially, I do this a lot. Where like if I'm see that the game I've lost the game turn two, I'll just be like, all right, I'm gonna scoop and go next.
Yeah, save the
Um,
clock on the round as well because the timer is an important aspect of the game. I mean,
Uh,
I can't imagine you're
I
going to
mean,
time
yeah,
very often in this.
technically, I don't think I've ever gone to time with Annie. I think the only time I've ever gone to time is I was playing MF Aurora, and my opponent was like super slow.
That
Um,
happens, yeah.
but with Annie, no, I've never gone to most. Actually, the one problem I had with Annie is that I win my matches in tournament so quickly that I have like 30 minutes to just like chill and do nothing.
Oh, you're gonna love
Um,
that in real life when you're like, I guess I'll go get lunch while you're sat there with your
no,
awfully
it's
grindy Aurora
like
deck.
I would say most of my matches in tournament end in like less than 20 minutes.
Oh, that's
Most of the
beautiful.
reason is just because like one, I think it's mostly just a player thing. Like if I'm losing a game, I'm super willing to just like scoop, especially if I won game one and like I go into game two and like I open really poorly or I make a big misplay and I'm like looking at my hand and I'm like, there's no way for me to get back into this. I'll just like scoop, go next. No reason to like waste that time.
Yeah, you get to hide the information from players as well if they haven't seen you.
Most of the matches I play, I win 2-0. Just because like Annie is the type of deck where game one, your opponent needs to have answers in the main. And if they don't, then they're going to lose. And then, post board, most decks are not going to have answers for Annie. It's like Annie's not a deck that you go into a tournament prepped for. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Representation. It's kind of difficult to prep for Annie. And then
Well, you also,
it's just like not.
yeah. Sorry, the other problem I can see with that trying to prep for Annie is that you end up building your deck in a way that makes you vulnerable to a lot of the other decks that are more
Yes,
common.
that's and the last thing I was going to mention
Yeah.
is that even if you like wanted to make your deck better into Annie, you make your deck worse into everything else, right? And it's like super hard to justify doing that with a deck that has literally one person playing it at the tournament, right?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm gonna get
So
that one guy. It's totally worth it. Um,
yeah, so like generally speaking, it's like yeah, Annie's her matches are super fast. Like most of the games end on like turn four. Sometimes you'll take more time if you like really have to think out your plays, but personally, like I kind of know exactly what cards I need on each turn. So I don't really spend a lot of time thinking.
I like that.
Generally speaking.
It reduces the
So
mental fatigue across a long tournament. Like the longer you go into the tank when you're playing 10 rounds, you got to remember for people at home who's not perhaps played in a lot of big tournaments that you're going to have
yeah.
breaks between that and you're going to get tired. You're going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be playing till 11 at night non-stop. And
Hmm.
if your game's every single round, you're going, great, how do I win from here? You're going to get, it's just going to wear on you and you're going to start making misplays towards the end of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
Like,
Against like all of like the B tier and below decks, you just kind of win. You don't really have to do anything.
yeah.
And then against like Kaisa and Yi, it's like I know where I need to be. Like I know the patterns well enough that like, and if you play Annie or like any deck, you can kind of do this as well. If you know the patterns, you know like this is how many points I need by this turn. These are the cards I need to beat his cards. Like as long as you know and like are aware of these things, then you don't have to make constant decisions in a game. In fact, I would argue that if you're constantly thinking every turn about everything, that you are probably going to lose
Yeah.
because that's a good sign that you are just not prepared.
Yeah. No, 100% agree with that.
That would be, my thoughts on it.
No, I appreciate it. And I guess sort of last question before we do 100% wrap this up is, do you have any favorite moments from a tournament? Like, is there a particular match or something where you just felt like, oh my God, it just all
Oh,
went together and you popped off and it was filthy? Like, do you have a particular match that stands out to you?
every game with Annie. I think the reason I like
Every
Annie
game's
so
a
much,
highlight reel. I love that.
dude, every game with Annie is kind of like that, where it's like every time you pick up Annie, it's actually like playing like a cinematic. It's so nice. Like great examples are like anytime you do like at the end, like see when you're at 6 points, a lot of times what I'll do, and you should be doing this as well if you're playing Annie, is you need to try and win the game without doing the Vi ride, right? Like if you have like a Darius and a Kaisa on board, you want to threaten. If you have the option, you need to threaten lethal that way first, in order to maybe eat whatever your opponent has in their hand that can stop the Vi ride. And there's a lot of games where I'll do that and they'll be like, oh, okay, well, I stopped his push. The game's over. Actually, 1-2 Vi, 1-2 ride, GG. It's kind of like a slow roll, if you will,
Yeah.
but it's still correct to do in case your opponent has like Hidden Blade or, whatever
Yeah. Bait the responses and
nonsense.
then win off the four runes effectively.
Recently in tournament, I didn't have lethal, And so I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll stack deck, and then I hit a Vi off the top, and um, so Annie is actually really, really hype. This is like the dopamine deck, I swear to God.
The
Um, if
dopamine
you want a
deck.
deck where like you're constantly top decking all of the cards you want, like all the cards you need, like this is the deck for you. Like if you really like being, I really need Vi off the top and then top decking Vi, this is the deck for you. And some people might be like, isn't that, aren't you just gambling? What if you don't find it? The best part about Annie, I know I say this about every part about Annie, but the best part about Annie is how consistent this deck is. If you play correctly, if you like play to see the cards in your deck, you will see them. Like, I cannot understate how much consistency cards like Kaisa and Merchant add to the deck. And then Stack Deck alone is so crazy. Like, you read Stack Deck and you're like, oh, okay, I get to look at the top three and add one of those cards to my hand. That's not what this card does, by the way. This card gets 4 cards out of your deck. Stack Deck plus 3. Okay, which means anytime you play Stack Deck, 4 less cards in your deck are now in your deck. And all of those cards that you don't need go to the bottom,
10% of your
right? So now
deck.
you're 4 cards deeper into finding, not only do you get one of those cards to, advance your plays, but now all of those cards that would have been dead are now at the bottom, right? So like you get so much filter with Stack Deck alone that you just get like crazy levels of consistency. And then you add in Merchant and you add in the draws from Kaisa Survivor. This is the most consistent deck in the game. Like, very, very rarely will I not have the cards that I need when I need them. Um,
Yeah, which is where you want to be.
the number one thing I see new Annie players do is they undervalue, or they don't realize how consistent Annie is, and so they don't play to like draw into their combo pieces. Like they look at their hand and they go, I don't have Vi Ride, I guess I lose, right? But like what you need to be doing from turn one is you need to be putting yourself in the position. You need to be optimizing
Yeah.
your opportunity to have the combo is when you need it. That's what people always ask me. They go, Sold, how do you have it every time? And it's like, that's just the deck, man. Like
It's like
I
that's just
built the
playing the
deck
game.
to do that. It's like the play patterns enable you to have these cards every single time. Like if you play Kaisa, right, and you're like, sometimes Kaisa's not gonna have Falling Star, right? So
Yeah.
it's just like she's pretty consistent. She has a decent amount of draw power, but she's not always going to have it every single time. Like Yi is a great example of a deck that has no draw power, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a good chance Yi will not have Charm or Defy in his hand when he needs it at any given time. Annie always has like if you're playing against Annie, you just have to assume that they have everything. I would say if you want to beat Annie, what you need to do is you need to get really good at testing for cards.
Yeah.
Like you need to find a line that baits Foff, that baits Ride, that baits Flash, and you need to like eat these cards out of their hand without like sacrificing too much. You just need to be really good at testing for stuff. I would say that's like the number one way you beat Annie is you just have to know what's in her hand by kind of putting her in positions where she could get value out of these cards. And then if she doesn't play them,
It
you
tells
can
you
make the
exactly
read
what's
that she
going on.
doesn't have them. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about the chosen champion being able to fish out of your discard pile, like
I mean,
any spell that you need to win the game from your
Annie
situation.
Stubborn, best chosen champion in the game. When I first read this card, I thought it was terrible, and then after playing with this card, I firmly believe this is the best chosen champion in the game. I mean, this card does exactly what you want it to do. Like, do I wish it was 4 might? Yes. Do I wish it didn't cost power? Yes. But like those things are like pretty negligible, I would say.
Mm.
I would say with all that matters about Annie Stubborn is the text on the card. When you play me, return a spell from your trash to your hand. This gets back anything. It gets back Falling Star, it gets back Flash, it gets back Stack Deck, it gets back Ride, gets back Fight or Flight, gets back Rebuke. You know, like the most important thing about Annie is her spells and being able to just leverage a Fight or Flight on turn 2, on turn 3, being able to like break point parity, being able to, get insane amount of tempo with these high value cards, and then simply being able to add it back from trash when you need it for the winning play.
Yeah,
Like
just
I cannot
madness.
tell like it's so strong because it puts your opponent in a position where if I have Ride, maybe let's say we didn't have Annie. Okay, maybe I don't use my Ride the Wind because I'm gonna need it later, right? But with Annie, I can just I can leverage all of these really powerful cards in my hand because if I do need them later, I can just get them later. Like,
Yeah, you just take the advantage when it applies most because you can buy it back later.
yeah, it's I mean, I cannot like express like Annie is so good. There's no other legend in the like champion in the game that enables a deck or like adds that kind of power level to a deck that Annie does, right?
And I was pretty set on Kaiser Survivor being the best chosen, but I think I'm coming
Yeah, well,
around.
Kaiser Survivor is a good card, right?
Yeah,
But like it's not good in Kaiser, it's just good in general. Um,
yeah,
Another good example is like Master Yi. The
yeah.
Master Yi legend isn't bad. Like he's okay. I mean, he's an accelerated six smite, which is fine. But like neither of these cards like enable the deck. Like both of these decks, both of those decks are like playable without. I mean, Annie would be playable without Stubborn, but like both of those decks like are not at all. They don't get any sort of like game changing boost because of these chosen champions. Annie allows you to completely change your play lines based on your chosen champion. And like, it's really just like Annie is just like a pocket nuke. It's literally just like,
A pocket nuke. I like that.
if I'm on 8 mana and I have a Ride in Trash, my opponent has to play around Vi Ride because 8 mana, 4 for Annie, 2 for Vi, 2 for Ride, like the game's over. It's literally just like, okay, I'm gonna play Annie, I'm gonna get back the spell that kills you, and then I'm gonna kill you. I mean, that's just how it goes. And it also means that you can like discard Ride the Wind or like Falling Star with like your merchant and then just, add it back later. I do that all the time. Is I'll just like if it's turn 2 and I have a Ride in hand and that I'm not going to be able to get value out of early, I'm just going to discard it for merchant and then one, I'm just going to draw into another one.
Yeah, of
And then
course.
two, if I don't, I'll just add it back. So
I,
like it
I
doesn't matter.
love the psychology behind that because if I see Throughout Ride the Wind, knowing how important it is, my first go-to point in my head is they have another one in their hand, so I could have made an incorrect read based on something that you're just doing anyway because you know you've got Annie Stubborn to grab it back later.
There's a lot of situations where discarding Ride is optimal to play around like Sabotage too.
Yeah.
Like
Oh, so it doesn't get
if I
recycled.
have,
Yeah.
yeah, you put it in trash, and then, if they play Sabotage, then you still have access to the Ride when you need it. So,
Ah, that's an extra
uh,
level. Yeah, I like that. That's really clever.
it is a little bit of an outplay, and I wouldn't necessarily like do that on purpose like game one, but like post board into like any of the Aurora variants, stuff like that, any orange deck, like I will definitely be considering, how valuable is it to, get right in trash to play around Sabotage.
Yeah, no,
So
that
yeah.
all makes sense. I think that's an excellent place to wrap this one up. Before we close out, is there any shout outs you want to give? Any teammates, practice partners, or any other animes that you? Well, I think we established that
No,
you're the only
I'm
one.
the goat. I'm the goat. I'm the greatest of all time. No one else is even close to my level.
Are you
Um,
going to Houston?
People wish they were me. I will be at Houston, actually, yes.
Can people come up and get their Annies signed by you personally?
I will sign Annie's. If you guys want me to sign Annie's, I will do so.
Uh,
And then when I win, those Annies will go up in value.
I mean, if you don't have the holographic Annie by the end of Houston, I will be shocked and appalled.
Dude, I will be shocked and appalled if I don't win the metallic Annie. I think there's like a pretty low chance that I don't. I mean, I
Something
know
would have
it's
to go
a
really
little bit
wrong.
arrogant to be like, I'm just gonna win, but like I'm just gonna win, It's that simple.
That's the attitude you need to
Um,
have to play into a big tournament for sure. And if you want to be this confident, Sold Out does have a guide over on Metafile. I'll include the link down below,
that's
but it goes
true. Check it out.
yes, it goes way more into detail than we've had time to touch on in here. So if you're looking
Very
for,
comprehensive guide,
go ahead, do your
everybody.
sales pitch. Tell
Please
people
go
why they
check
should
it
buy
out.
your guide. I'm after listening to you talk, I
If do you
believe
want
in
to
it.
win? Do you like winning? If you like winning and you want to win with Annie, I'll teach you how to do it. I win all the time, and you know what? I woke up one day and I said, "Man, I'm so tired of being the only one that wins with Annie. I'm just gonna teach anyone that wants to know how to win with Annie. I'll just show you. I'll just teach you. It's fine, man. Like I get myself some actual competition up in here."
Just shut up and take my money. I am going to check that out. Like, honestly, just talking to you and hearing like the way you've described cards and things like Flash, you definitely know what you're talking about. And I believe
Yeah,
that if you
yeah.
want to get into
If
Annie, that's your starting point right
anyone
there.
is interested in that, it will be updated for at least all of Origins for when the meta eventually develops further. Right now, I feel very confident about where the list is at, where Annie's position in the meta is. I think that she is the best deck in the game, and I don't think it's close. You beat everything. Only losing matchup is Kaisa, and I say losing parentheses because that matchup is not nearly as difficult as it used to be. Mostly because, and people don't like to think about matchups this way,
Hmm.
but Annie has less losing matchups than Kaisa does. Annie
Oof.
loses to one thing.
Is it?
Kaisa loses to Master Yi. It
Yep.
loses to any Aurora variant.
Yep.
It loses to the Time Warp Ari deck.
Yep.
Like all of these decks that Annie completely hoses. So it's like if I'm going into a tournament and the only thing that I'm worried about, like that I could lose to is this Kaisa deck, but then I know that there's half of the venue is playing decks that beat Kaisa, like
You just
okay,
you
that's
just feed
completely
off of
fine with
them.
me.
You just go, yeah, cool. I'll just like face roll all the way
And
to the
again,
top card.
like Kaisa's like I talk about the Kaisa matchup like it's unwinnable, and that's just not true. Like that matchup is completely fine.
Let me just watch you
It's just like
steamroll it in the. I'm trying to remember. I think it's Thursday
yeah,
night
yeah,
fight night.
like
So like it's
it is
definitely
the
winnable.
one matchup like I talk about Kaisa specifically because it's the only matchup you can lose. Like if you play correctly, it is the only matchup that you are going to lose to. Like you can get high rolled by like some Yi builds. Yi is just a good deck. But like generally speaking, if I'm like the deck I'm going to lose to, it will be like a build of Kaisa. But that doesn't necessarily. It's just like all of Annie's matchups are so good
Yeah.
that Kaisa stands out because that matchup isn't like 70-30.
Yeah.
It's a very solid 50-50 matchup, I would say. And that's as bad as Annie's matchup gets is a 50-50 into the best deck in the game or the most represented deck in the game. In Kaisa, I should say.
So be sure to get your proving grounds because two of the top meta champions are actually exclusive to that product. So sold out.
True. Yeah, I actually we can talk about pricing real quick. If you want to pick up Annie, this deck is dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Um, all of the cards in the deck are like under $1. The only money card is the Kaisa Survivor, which is about I bought the alt arts, which went for about $35 each in Chinese. A couple like 2 weeks ago I bought them. Um, I got the whole deck for a little bit under 200. But that's mostly because one, half of that was just buying the Kaisa Survivors. Like out of that 200, like 115 was the Kaisa Survivors. And then I had to buy, because Annie's in the Proving Grounds, you have to buy a Proving Grounds. The problem is that the Proving Grounds only has 2 flash, and you need 3 flash. So it's like,
Oh, is this
how do I get the
exclusive to
third?
Proving Grounds as well?
Yeah. The Annie Legend, the Annie Champion, and the Flash are exclusive to Proving Grounds.
Oh, that is so
Um,
dirty.
so if
Okay.
you want 3 Flash, you have to buy 2 Proving Grounds. Or you would just have to find somebody who has a third Flash, right? What I ended up doing is I found someone on eBay that was just selling 2 copies of the Annie structure that's in the Proving Grounds, and I
Yeah,
just bought both. It was like $40, but
worth it.
I just kind of I didn't want to have to, yeah, it was like, I don't want to have to go find somebody, like to buy a Proving Grounds would have been at least 50. And it's like, one, I don't really care about reselling all of the Yi stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to, and I didn't want to go like dig around trying to find some guy that was selling a singular copy of Flash. That just seemed like a waste of time. So I would say the deck in general, I think it'll be one of the cheaper decks on release. I think all of these cards are super easy to get. I think the only money card is Kaiser Survivor. So will have to shell out for that. But everything else is like actual pennies. So I guess Falling Star is like $10. But yeah. But other than that,
Yeah, but you're going to be playing both these cards in other decks as well, so they're a good investment. Like, I can't see
yeah,
Falling
no,
Star
no.
not being
The
good in
Kaiser
every
is a great
Fury deck.
investment.
Like,
Kaiser Survivor will be good in set 2. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Kaiser Survivor will see play-ins. I don't know what cards are in set 2. I don't know what the meta is gonna look like. Kaiser Survivor is a card that will see play. This card is just too good not to, in my opinion. I would be very surprised if there was a meta where Kaiser Survivor was not playable.
yeah, I 100% agree. It does everything that you want a card to do in Riftbound. Okay, so let's wrap it up there. Sold Out, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate you giving your insights for the
No
deck,
problem.
and looking forward to seeing your tournament results in the future. And remember to go get your Annies signed at Houston if you are there in person. But
I
for
will be
now,
there.
we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for having me.
No,
Bye bye.
thank you. Bye bye.